Recording is on.
And we are live. Welcome everybody to another episode of You Know What? Let me just say podcast. I'm your host Ray. With me as always, we have Father.
Oh, we finna talk about some shit today.
Yes, we are. And I didn't really introduce him the last podcast, but he's new. Everybody welcome Dion to the podcast.
How y'all doing?
All right. How was y'all Thanksgiving, by the way?
All right, with the exception of me having the flu.
Damn.
Still got fat though.
Um. So
Sorry to hear that.
for me, mine was good. I ate way too much. That was one thing I ate way
Is
too.
there such a thing as eating too much on Thanksgiving?
Oh yes, yes it is. And
Yep.
Because that's the whole point of the holidays to eat.
and I did that, and our fridge is actually overflowing. Bro, our turkey was so big we had to like put it in two containers.
Nice.
Damn.
So I think we're about to eat for like a good month. That's a lot of food.
An acoustic neuroma is potentially deadly.
Hey man, I don't know why everybody be jumping on turkeys like they dry. My sister made turkey yesterday. That shit is moist.
They could shut off
I'm
I
saying,
made some leftover turkey.
fluid from the brain.
I had some leftover turkey. That shit's still moist. So tell your people
Could lead to the death of the
to
patient.
learn how to cook some damn turkey. All you turkey haters talking about that shit dry. Just learn how to moisten your turkey. That's all I say.
Yeah, well, if it's dry, you overcook it.
Up to 5 millimeters can be detected.
Basically, and I think me and father was looking at some bad looking turkeys the other day.
Or at least 60,000
Ah man. You know what you just reminded me of? Remember the one episode of mine where they was having a contest to see like who could make the best like Thanksgiving turkey? They had a joint with 3 legs.
They should take it off,
Yeah.
take it out, and any metal can be
Hey,
dangerous.
Dion, can I ask you a favor though?
Any metal
What's it?
object inside the patient,
Turn down your TV.
this can cause damage to
Oh, you can hit.
We just had this talk about the
My
background
bad.
noise.
My bad. I'm just going to the next room because my girl watches something. I'm gonna just take my shit and go to the next room.
Cracks confirmed.
All right.
Thank you.
With that being
I didn't realize the TV
being
was that loud.
said, when I tell you this shit picks up a lot, it picks up a lot. That's no joke. I'm literally like in a room and I mute everything before I jump on. So let's just get this started. We're going to talk about probably what a lot of people was talking about this week, and this, even though I didn't put this on the list, it's like the first thing we was going. I knew this was going to be the first thing we was going to talk about. I was hoping more people come, but if they come, we'll ask them. So this over this weekend or the last weekend, a 19-year-old college student by the name of Ruth Gamble, I think that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she went to UIC and she was walking minding her own business, and a 26-year-old man was catcalling her. She ignored him. That man got mad. He kidnapped her, strangled her, raped her, killed her, and now he is in jail. So sad as that is, he's now being put to jail, and without Ruth George, that's her name, Ruth George. Um, he's been, as of right now, he's been put to jail, and he's served without bail. So, fellas, and I'm gonna start with Father. How do you feel about situations like this? Because it always brings up whenever you see things like this, it always brings up a lot of emotions, especially from females, because a lot of females already don't feel protected, and stuff like when they hear stories like this, it just kind of like, I don't want to say it proves their point, but it kind of do. So how do you feel about it?
So first thing is first. R.I.P. to our sister Ruth George because she did not deserve to die for ignoring a cat call. And there's two things I want to acknowledge. Right. Number one, when it comes to our women and their protection, that should be like our first priority. Like if you call yourself a man, that should be your first priority. So
Facts.
especially in the black community. So I'm gonna preface what I'm to my point by saying this: any man who does not prioritize the protection of the women in the community is not a man, because that's not masculine. That's like, we don't claim you. You should be denounced and cut off in every way conceivable. And number two, everything that women have been saying about this particular issue, we like, I want to support them and help, elevate what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to make sure that the proper context is being used, and I also want to make sure that their voices is being heard so everyone can hear this, because this is something that should be stopped on all fronts. We all know there's violence against women, and we all know that women out here are very fearful because there are factors that lead them to dying, as our sister Ruth George did. Now, with all of that being said, and this is me coming from a place of being a brother, being a son, all that, right? With all that being said, I have a problem with this narrative. Every time stories like this come out, there is a narrative: men are trash. If men just hold other men accountable, oh, men, they're just so evil. And, I'm all of that I can understand. But the problem I have with that narrative is that if that narrative goes far enough, the men who want to help, the men who recognize the problem, the men who stick to what y'all say and better themselves as individuals and try to bring that level of consciousness to other brothers around us, we are going to get seen by the very same light you see that dude that killed Ruth George. You're gonna see us as, and I have personally seen this firsthand, where it would be
Uh,
to the point where we would have conversations, or like we would try to have discussions, and we can't have those anymore because it's so emotional, and there's so much feelings that's involved. Even if you want to help, you can't do it because you're just going to be looked at as the bad guy the entire time. I have personally experienced it way too many times. So,
man.
and what sucks about it is these are women that, like, I want to help. These are women that, like, I don't want to see you out here getting killed out here in these streets. I'm pretty sure any sane man who's out here just doing whatever is going to sit there and tell you, I don't want to see no woman getting cat called or, getting killed out in the streets. Like what type of dudes do you think we are out here? Is the bar set so low that you just assume that every man is just out to get you? Because if that was truly the case, there'd probably be no women around right now. So there has to be a distinction. I'm going to say this: too much generalizations, not enough distinctions. Nobody is saying that you can't express your feelings. Nobody is saying that, oh, we're not all mending the situation. But when you use certain language and you perpetuate certain narratives, it actually harms more than it helps. And I've seen it all over social media where you would have women who obviously know what they're talking about. They bring the facts, they bring the figures. We this is obvious. We know there's violence against women. We know that there's stigma against women. We know that women are over sexualized, and because of that over sexualization, there is a culture of predators that want to harm women if they don't have that access to them the way they want to. We know this.
Uh-huh.
This is documented. We see this all the time, even growing up. We see this all the motherfucking time. But what we're not going to sit here and do is perpetuate a narrative that says I'm trash because somebody done got away with killing a woman because he didn't return his sexual advances. That's not what we're gonna do. There's way too many people out here that genuinely want to help you for you to be doing that. And I think that kind of mentality is very short, is short-minded. And I know that it comes from a place of anger, but we also had to combat this in a way that's gonna help everybody. So
Uh,
what I su- so what I've been suggesting this entire time is let's not generalize. Let's be laser focused on the issue and let's treat this as, if this happens, then we see to it that the person or the perpetrator gets his due, which has happened. The dude was arrested and the dude's going to go away for a long time. Personally, I say you let a bunch of real brothers beat his ass until there's nothing left. But hey, he goes to jail. He got caught. That motherfucker's not seeing a day in life. Period. For the murder of our beloved sister. And to that, I say that's probably the best outcome that could be. Me personally, I want to see I want to see just brothers just wailing on him until there's literally nothing left of him, which is what we should be doing as a community. Anyone who harms our women will be swiftly dealt with by the community, but we'll take what we can get. And when it comes to situations like this, and I keep hearing this because I had to check a lot of women that was using this story to like just bash the male species. Just men are this, men are that, men don't protect nobody, men are useless. Like all of that shit started coming out. And then you have this narrative, well, if you just hold each other accountable, I cannot I cannot be accountable for shit I don't do. Ray, you can't be accountable for shit you don't do. Dion, you can't be accountable for shit you don't do. We do not go out here
Facts.
doing any of that shit. And you best believe if anyone that we see within our vicinity is doing any of that shit, doing catcalling or being too rough with a woman, you best believe we gonna handle that shit. All three of us have done this in our personal lives many times over. So I don't want to hear no, oh, we're not being protected on these streets because if you see examples of men who actually take the time to protect the women in their lives, make sure that they're good, make sure that they're solid, then that example that you see is how you can differentiate who's going to harm you and who is actually going to be there for you. And I'm not saying this to victim blame or nothing like that, but I just don't want a narrative perpetuated where we're looked at as evil because we didn't prevent a rape or a killing. How are we supposed to know this was going to happen? How are we supposed to know that whenever a woman goes outside, there is probably going to be a man that's going to try and catcall her, and if he doesn't get his way, he's going to kill her. I guarantee you, if a lot of us had that foresight, we would probably prevent a lot of deaths. But it's inevitable. And this is a hard truth. And I don't want to say it. A lot of people don't want to say it, but let's tell the truth. That man acted on his own autonomy. He got rejected. And because of the cultures that he subscribed to personally, and because of the cultures that he subscribed to by choice, he decided to kill that sister. I cannot hold him accountable because not only do I denounce it, I don't subscribe to that type of thing. None of us here do. So why should we be lumped in with the men y'all are talking about that perpetuate that kind of filth? I will not
mm.
sit here. No one that calls himself a man is going to sit there and allow that culture to even thrive. So you can say to your blue in the face, well, you men just need to be held accountable. To some point, I agree. But in certain cases like this, I'm damn sure not my brother's keeper. Because if that was my brother, he wouldn't have done that in the first place. See, they like to hide in these little enclaves where if you see a man that's catcalling, he probably got friends that catcall too. So they got their own little enclaves. Because if they was with a real nigga and they was doing that shit, it would have been stopped immediately. I'm not saying, and again, I'm not saying this to victim blame. I'm just saying we need to make a distinction. This is not something men need to hold. This is something that happened because the person made the choice to do it. He made the choice to kill that woman, and now he's going to pay for it. I don't see how that has to do with me. I don't see how that has to do with men in general, because as like I said before, and I will continue to say, men are not a motherfucking monolith. If you want to call out a specific behavior, do that. If you want to talk about men who domestically abuse, talk about that specifically. If you want to talk about men that rape, let's talk about that specifically. If you want to talk about men that catcall and kill women when they don't get their way, let's talk about that specifically. But we're not going to put men in a box and just say all these horrid things about us just because you mad and upset. I'm mad and upset too. All of us are mad and upset. That woman should have never died in the first fucking place. So when I hear that, all of a sudden it's on all of us, no, it's not on all of us. And it's not fair to say that it's on all of us, because if a lot of us had our way, no woman would be getting killed, period. But we don't live in a perfect world. And this is not going to be the only death because of this. So what we need to do individually is work on ourselves, and then as a collective, when you have when you have men that that you can trust, you have to let us be the example. Because when we're the example, I can guarantee you, none of the young boys that are coming up that see us as the example, instead of motherfuckers that perpetuate that narrative and that nonsense, none of them would even think about disrespecting a woman when she says no or she doesn't cater to his advances. That's what we need to kill. We don't need to demonize men. We need to kill the culture. And that's all I got to say.
You want to say something, Dion?
Now, I agree with everything Father just said. Um, that the culture itself needs to be, it's what people refer to as rape culture, basically. You know, pretty much just looking at women as just, tools for our own pleasure. They shouldn't have a say in what they do or don't do, who they talk to, all of that. Everything he just said was absolutely correct. Um, the the one thought that crossed my mind as he was talking was, I'm sure that this cat has like female relatives. How would you feel if someone did what you did to this woman to, say, your mother, your sister, something like that? That's where my mind went with this, as he was talking. You know what I'm saying? How would you feel if someone did what you did to, one of your family members, to the person that killed this innocent woman? He he he'd be ready to lose his mind. I know I would be. That's uh it just made no sense for him to do that. No matter how you look
Yeah,
at it, no matter how you try to dissect it.
you're right. You're right. Um, the way I'm basically with both of y'all, because especially father with the whole like men taking accountable. Here here's my opinion on it, and I'll say this all the time. Because I hate the term. I hate when, and this is just me personally. I hate when women say you should tell people to stop raping them. First things first, and I tell this to everybody: you learn consent at a young age. Mother, may I? Can I have such and such? May I go to so and so's house? Can I do this? Can I do that? The first thing you learn is consent. So when you learn what can you do and what can you not do. Now, depending on how you raise, most people are different. Especially, but I know when I grew up, I had to I learned how to treat women from my grandmother, from my mother, from women. It's like you don't
Right.
do this to if I'd have done something, you don't do this to women. You don't like my father. He's also like told me how to treat women. Hey, don't do this and don't do that to women. It's wrong. You don't want this doing to your sister. It's and I say this a lot to people too because where I come from, when my family, when shit gets done, shit gets handled. So when I see stuff like this, like I want to handle it. Now this has already been handled. This has already been um he's like I said, he's already been arrested and he's not getting bail and he's probably going to jail. So this has been handled. Now the girl had to lose her life? No. No matter how you feel about catcalling, like, do you feel like it's inappropriate or not? The woman did not have to lose his life. That's on the man's. To me, that's on that man's personal ego and why he couldn't take being denied for some reason. He didn't have to rape her, but that was on his own accord, and that's what father and a lot of people are trying to tell people. Like we get it. Like we get into Twitter debates with this all the time. First things first, and this is another thing I say most men do not know that, especially men do not know that the person who doing a rapist is a rapist. I don't know if he's a rapist or not, because definitely he doesn't go up and say, "Hi, my name is Clark. I go to this place. I go to this place over here, and I like to rape bitches on the side." You think that if we knew that that person is a rapist, do you think he'd be walking around here or not, or he'd be like 6 feet under? No, especially if you got women to protect. You're making sure like he's taken to the proper authorities or he gets help. And I do feel like sometimes women they want us to be Batman. Sometimes it's just like taking justice into our own hands. And trust me, if the law provided us, there'd be a lot more vigilantes out there trying to prevent. If we could take the law to our own hands, we would. Especially a lot of black men, because there's a lot of like creeps and all that other stuff that I feel like they needs to be taken off the streets. Like the whole R. Kelly thing. I think we all seen the tapes. We all feel like R. Kelly needs to go to jail. I've been saying that, but do not but I am not going to be associating myself with someone like R. Kelly, nor the people who I hang around with associate myself with R. Kelly. And another thing I have a problem with is, and it's the same thing with like when people talk about suicide. It seems like we all start pointing fingers at everybody but the person doing it or the person getting help. For suicide, I think the him getting trying to get help and all that other stuff, that's one thing. But as far as rape, as far we need to counteract this. We've said this. We need to counteract this culture, or we need to. And I've been saying that we need to rethink how we does as men. Like take stuff from the old school and maybe like put something new in for this generation because every generation is different. How people like associate manhood and what to do with your manhood. I feel like all that needs to be talked about. And it's another thing. Black women, we're on your side. I don't like seeing this. When I first read this, I was disgusted. When I know a lot of you women were disgusted, I was disgusted too. Because that could have been one of my families. And trust me, some of my family members have gone through this. I'm pretty sure all three of my sisters have gone through this in one way or another. The thing is, and don't get mad when men gives you answers because we're problem solvers. And I know that all the gender binary people are probably not gonna like this, but fuck it. As a man, we are born problem solvers. If you come to us with a problem, we're going to give you advice on how to solve it. Don't get mad if you don't like the advice. Because sometimes we're not going to call to you. We're going to tell you what you need to do. Out of like with situations like this, go with a buddy system. Carry knives on you. Carry tasers or mace spray. That's why they have this. Have a rape whistle and all that other stuff. Like we understand that rape isn't 100% preventable, and sometimes you want to go home just like men do, because I don't want to turn this into like all lives matter thing, but if you men we like go through shit like this too. You don't think like we go out the street and hoping we don't get robbed today, especially if we're in a like sketchy ass neighborhood, or anybody live in a DMV. You go on the metro because people like to mess with people on the metro for no reason. Like we go through this every day. If we understand how hard it is, we know it's twice as hard for the women. So I tell women all the time, we're not here to compete with you with shit like this. We're here to we telling you we understand. Like you don't feel safe out here. I understand. I don't feel safe either. So as much we need to do as much as we can without being vigilantes or breaking the law to get shit done. As much we can do, but the much we could do, we try to our darndest, especially the ones that really wants to look out for black women or women in general, because everybody goes through this type of problem. So like black women, we're not your enemies, especially like the
Right.
people that want to help you. We're not your enemy. We're the ones that wants to see him go. Like father used to tell me, in countries in Africa, if you was caught being a rapist, they kill you on the spot. They find you and they kill you on the spot. Now we can't do that, but that's why we have the justice system for it. But like I said, we have to do what we got to do just to make sure like you feel safe walking these streets.
Yeah.
Anybody else has something to say before we move on to our next topic?
Mm,
I mean, I just hope we stop arguing with each other and actually start coming with solutions. Because I'm sorry to say this, and like holding other dudes accountable is not the answer. Obviously, it's just not. What we have to do is kill the culture within itself. Because I can talk to niggas till they're blue in the face. It's up to them at the end of the day whether they're going to do it or not. If you see a dude that kills a woman because he ain't getting none or whatever, then obviously he didn't take my words to heart. So even if you do like quote unquote hold them accountable, how does that exactly fix the issue? Because the woman's still dead. I just
right.
don't understand that. And I've been trying to have discussions with everybody. All they want to fucking do is argue and then call me like an apologist or whatever. So at that point, I'm just like, then you're not serious. You really not serious about saving these women out here, because I'm trying to make it so that no woman has to go outside and then deal with that bullshit. And the solution you're offering isn't helping anybody. We can talk to these niggas till we're blue in the face. They're going to make that decision one way or another. So if they decide not to do that, that's the bare minimum. Hey, everybody gets to live. But you don't have to tell nobody. You don't have to tell nobody not to kill anybody. That's common sense. You don't have to tell no dude not to rape a woman. That's motherfucking common sense. They do that shit because they choose to. And I would not, or no other man who respects himself will be fucking lumped in with that. So when you say men are trash, when you say, oh, men do this and men do that, and put us in that box, you best believe we're gonna do everything in our power to bust out of that motherfucking box and throw it away. Cause I will not.
Uh, I was just thinking back because this actually reminds me of just a personal experience. I lost a good friend of mine due to a similar situation to what we were just talking about. Um, this poor girl, her name was Annika. She left behind a son. Um, Short version of it, this dude she was talking to at one point, she decided she ain't want nothing to do with him no more, whatever. He ends up stalking her, snatched her up. Me and all my friends, this was in North Carolina while I was still enlisted at the time. We're trying to find her and everything else, just for me to get a phone call from her best friend, Melanie. She's sobbing and crying. They found her body, and I'm just like, damn. Like this shit in general just has to stop.
And I agree with all of that. In short, stop generalizing. It never works. Men are not a monolith. Women, we understand that women are not a monolith. We understand anybody is not a monolith. But so please, once we stop generalizing and start directing at the people who are really responsible for all this, I feel like we can at least get to a better spot where at least you could walk the streets safer. So now on to our next topic. I want to talk about Ti being on a Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith. Now Ti and Tiny basically been quiet with this whole Hyman gate. If anybody remembers, like Ti was on a podcast and he was talking about how he schedules her daughter, his daughter's gynecology, and make sure her hymen is still there and all that other stuff. And he's caught a lot of backlash with it, a lot. So he's kept quiet about it. And you know, if you anybody understands the internet, especially Black Twitter, we make memes out of it. We make jokes about it. It gets hilarious. It does get hilarious. So now he went to Jada Pinkett's show, Red Table Talk, which is a good show, by the way, and talks about everything. Or at least in that part one, he talked about everything that had to deal with Hyman Gate. So I don't know, Dion. I don't know if you watched the show. Father, I know you did. What did y'all think about it?
Father, you go ahead because I didn't actually watch the joint.
Man, yo, Ti put his foot in his mouth. That man, some of the stuff he was saying on there, I was just like, bro, that ain't it. That ain't it. And like, cause I'm listening to him, and I could tell like, yeah, he's trying to come from a good place. Like I can understand at the very end of the day, you want to protect your daughter and stuff, but bruh, she's 18, she's growing up. You not gonna censor her from like having sex. You just not. You know what I'm saying? If there's a dude that she won't give it to, she's going to an age, she's gonna make that decision to do it, whether you like it or not. So you going over to make sure that her hymen's still intact, even though it is not guaranteed that her hymen's gonna be there without having sex, or like with having sex. Like that's just weird, bro. I'm not gonna go to a doctor just to check if my daughter has her hymen intact. Like no, especially at 18. Like I would pride myself in knowing that I raised my daughter to know what's good for her and what's bad for her, and for her to make those decisions that's going to benefit her. You understand? So you know, if I raise my daughter the right way, she'll know only to have sex with people that you know you can trust. Of course, I'm not going to assume that she's going to be a straight woman because times are different now. I have to maybe she's going to be a lesbian. I don't know. When that time comes, we going to get to it. But whoever that she decides to have intercourse with, I would want her to make sure that she's making that decision in a healthy manner, and the person that she's going to give it to respects her and honors her, and not take that for granted. So there would be no need for me to do that, because my child is going to be a child I can trust because I raised her that way. Ti probably doing it because deep down in his soul, he don't trust her. He don't trust his daughter completely. That's why he's going to go check for them hymens and shit, because he know that he ain't shit. Kept cheating on Tiny. It was all over the place when he was cheating on Tiny. So that karma, that shit that eats up in his soul, that's manifesting in the behavior with his daughter, because he knows deep down in his heart he don't want her to fuck with a nigga that's just like him. So it's a lot of factors into this, and you can really hear it when he was speaking to Jada on that. And as everyone said on Twitter, I don't like Willow should have been on that episode, because Willow would have tore his ass up a new one, which I kind of wanted to see, because Ti was wrong for that. But eh, I'm not gonna hold my breath. I feel like Willow probably should say something, in the near future. If she wants to not say anything, that's cool too. I just think it would be much better if she did. But anyway, back on topic. Yeah, man, Ti just said a lot of weird shit. You know what I mean? And then he was trying to use his big words to make it seem more like he knows what he's talking about. I'm like, Ti, you're our brother, but this ain't it, bro. This ain't it. If you respect your daughter, or if you respect the woman that she's becoming, because you raised her right and everything, then you wouldn't have had to do all that silly shit in order to prove that she got her hymen intact or whatever. That's just weird. You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't even really be your business, because she's going into a woman, and she's going to and she's going to make her own decisions. You're not going to play, daddy forever. You're going to be her father, but you're not going to play daddy forever. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, she's going to grow one day to resent you for what you're doing. And then on top of that, you got her looking crazy out here because you're the father that don't know how to act, when it comes to certain things. So you can say, "Oh, I'm just protecting my daughter. I'm just making sure her losing her hymen is not going to kill her." So exactly what are you protecting her from? You're protecting her from niggas like you.
It's funny. He did in, I think, near the end of the podcast when they was talking about, he was saying that. Um, he look. I'm not as harping on Ti as much as a lot of people do, even though I do think he deserves it a little bit. I've always said, but to me, I said this is not that big of a deal. Maybe not because I've seen overprotective fathers, and yes, he is the epitome of the overprotective father, no doubt. But I never really took it as a big deal when I was what I kind of laughed at it, and I'm not going to lie to y'all. I never knew the medical term for hymen. Oh, when stuff like that, they usually say, your cherry got popped and all that other stuff, but I never knew the medical term for hymen. So this is what I took out of it. First things first, Willow didn't need to be there. I felt like Jada handled it phenomenally. I felt like and it goes with the structure of the show because you got three generations of women, and I felt like the Jada's mom, I can't remember her name, never time, but Jada's mom and Jada, I felt like handled that very womanly. If anybody understands that, like she didn't bash him, but she did point out his flaws. Like she told him, like basically the you going to the gynecology is not the bad part. It's the whole hymen thing that a lot of people have a problem with, which is true. Like because a lot of women that said this. I don't have a problem with you going to the gynecology, but the whole hymen thing, yes, that seems a little excessive. Or just to see if a hymen's there, yes, you see it's excessive. And this goes to people saying having karma because a lot of people, if you're misogynist. I don't want to say misogynist, but if you go around like treating women like shit, or you come from this pimping, how can I say this, like legacy of pimps and all that other stuff, and you've just been a player all your life, you're bound to like know who and who not to fuck with, and that's basically what Ti is basically doing. So this is, to me, this is his karma coming back to him because he knows that he's been a player all his life and he's been unfaithful to his wife, even though his wife has been ride or die. There's he knows that he doesn't want that for days and all that other stuff. Now, at one, to me, that's credible, but at the same time, you can tell that's hypocritical. But a lot of men, like, they know it's hypocritical, so that's why, like, a lot of them, that's why you see a lot of men agreeing with Ti with the whole overprotective shit. Now, as we done said before, if he's doing this with his daughters, you should be doing this with your sons because I feel like your sons and your daughters should have the same type of treatment when you want a father like this. Now, kudos to him for Ti, and now this is some good things. Kudos to him admitting that yes, he does treat his daughter different than what he treats his son. That's honest because most people won't be honest. And I'm gonna also say kudos to him coming to Jada and asking for help because he did like humble himself. He wasn't trying to take over the situation. Yes, he was trying to smart talk, but he wasn't trying to take over the situation. He did ask questions, and he was trying to get perspectives from women, and he got it. and he looked like he took it in. He soaked it up. A lot of people are mad that he doesn't know what patriarchy is. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. A lot of men like kind of look at patriarchy like doesn't really understand fully patriarchy. A lot of people don't understand feminism. A lot of people don't understand a lot of those things. So to me, it exposed a lot of that, and I'm pretty sure like he was okay with exposing. Yeah, I don't understand everything fully. I'm still trying to learn as a dad. Because let's be real, fatherhood is tough. Like raising a kid is tough. Sometimes you want to raise a kid in your own image. Sometimes you got this whole castle. You just want to protect everything that goes in it. But like Father said, once you leave those doors, you got to have trust in your kids that they will be able to do the right things in life, and that what you instilled in them, that they will keep that in them. Now, goes to saying, will they accept it or not? Who knows? But that's the whole point of having trust. If you have trust in your sons and daughters that they will be outstanding citizens once you leave the nest, then you have to bring that trust in them. Dion, what you think?
All right, my bad for the delay. See, all right, so in my head, I'm like, you know, Ti probably just ruined her whole, you know, her whole dating life with that. And the reason I say that, you know, any dude who hears about this now, if they come across her, they're gonna be skeptical about getting involved with her, because now in their head they're gonna be thinking, oh wait, her crazy ass father is Ti. I don't know if I should get involved with her, try to do anything with her, whatever. You done put her in this situation of, now everyone knows I got this crazy ass parent for one.
Not to interrupt you, Dion, but I feel like anybody with a father feels any woman with a father feels like that. Like if you have a father in your life, a lot of dudes, when they know you got a father in life, they know not to really fuck with your daughter like that because they know that the father will come after them. Especially like you see it in a lot of shows where fathers will like, clean their guns or they'll do some shit that makes them know they're crazy. If you fuck with my daughter and all that shit, I'll kill you. You probably seen that many times, right?
Yeah, I've heard stories. I mean, I've never experienced that, with the whole overprotective father thing when I was dating or whatever. I've never personally experienced that, but I've heard stories, and we all see the portrayals on TV and everything of the overprotective dad. Funny. One of the funniest scenes in a movie was
You talking
I
about
can't
Bad
think of the
Boy?
name of the movie. I remember 50 Cent was in it.
Never
It
mind.
was 50 Cent was in it. It was 50 Cent, Gerard Butler, and Ice Cube's kid. I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head. But this dude was coming to take 50's daughter in the movie to prom or whatever, and he had like his whole crew there, pretty much like his whole gang there to, pretty much just to intimidate the guy and tell him, not to try nothing with his daughter, whatever. And to me, that's excessive. Just
I was thinking Bad Boys too.
no. Well,
Denim
yeah.
Thieves. That's the movie name.
Which one?
Denim Thieves.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That was it. That was it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But is to me, I feel like that's excessive. As you just said, if you've taught your child about certain stuff, you've taught them what to do when they're confronted with certain types of situations. You shouldn't have to do all that. You know, not to mention, going back to what Father said about protecting his Ti protecting his daughter from cats like him because we know what type of guy he is. We know he just swings his shit every fucking where. You know, if he wasn't the way he was, if he wasn't doing the shit that he was doing, he wouldn't have no reason to be nervous when his daughter steps out into the world. So this all goes back to that karma thing. You know, this this goes back to an old, I guess, folktale, wild tale, whatever that I used to hear for all the cats that used to be, womanizers and players and pimps and blah blah blah. When they do finally have a kid, their first child is going to be a girl, and they're going to have to deal with protecting that little girl from shady cats like himself. Which I guess I got lucky. I did I did my little bit of dirt here and there, but my one child that I have is a boy. But now I have a son. I have the opportunity to teach my son, not to do some of the dumb things that I was doing. You know, so there's that.
So let me ask you a question because there was a couple things he did say that I kind of like want your answer to. Um, and I'm paraphrasing when I say this. He was like, "Isn't the point of having control? It's something along the lines of having control over your, even being a father." He's like, "Am I just supposed to like give sperm and just give money when they ask for it?" Because he was how can I say this? He was wondering, like, as a father, what do women expect for him to do? Because he was like, isn't some you supposed to have some point of control over some kid's life? It was like not to where it's excessive, but where you should at least try to guide them to the right place. At least that's what at least what I was think he was trying to say in all those big words he was throwing out. So, what do y'all think about that?
Okay, in terms of actually support, guidance, or whatever, as a father, yeah. Once they've become an adult, that whole control thing needs to go out the window. They're an adult. They're old enough to make their own decisions. Let them do them. Pretty much as long, pretty much unless they're pretty much relying on you for everything, you're financing their entire life or whatever, whatever. You know, you don't need to be in their business constantly. I repeat, a lot of the stuff that I see and hear or whatever when it comes to the whole overprotective father narrative, it's excessive. It's if you're not, how do I word it? Basically, if you know you're a stand up guy, there's no need for any of that.
Okay. Um. Well, I guess in regards to that question, my answer would be like discipline, or like being an example. If I have a child, or especially a daughter, I'm going to conduct myself in a way in where she sees my example, and then she'll try to find that, or at least find a good foundation that mirrors or closely resembles the example that I gave out. So if I know my daughter is watching me, I'm not gonna go out here acting crazy, impregnating all types of women, calling women bitches and hoes, or, doing certain little dumb shit like that. Because if I'm doing that, that would give me more of a reason to be, super overprotective over my daughter. And it will be hypocritical as well, because because I myself am complicit in a culture that views her as the very things that I'm doing to women. So, as the example, I have to hold myself to a higher standard because that's what you do when you have kids. You got to stop doing all you got to stop doing all all that fuck shit and really like focus on taking care of your child. You know what I'm saying? When you have a
Facts.
child in this world, it's not just about you anymore. It's not just about what you want. It's not about whether you're tired or not. Your child is your first priority in all things. Even if me and my wife got a divorce, like okay, we can have a divorce, we can have a falling out or whatever. But we both have to make sure our child gets the best results possible, like in all aspects. So I can't be out here doing crazy shit. I can't be out here just doing whatever just because, I'm a human being. I get to do whatever the fuck I want. As soon as I have that child, my life is not mine anymore. I have a child to take care of and I have to be that example. So when they grow up, I leave behind a legacy. Once my daughter gets married and has children of her own, you know, my spirit, my essence never dies because they would be raised with the same principles and values that I raised my daughter or I raised my son to have. So like that example, and I also said that discipline is that's something that needs to be prioritized. We can't be out here just doing whatever and it's say, oh, my son and my daughter. Once we have that child, a lot of shit has to change. A lot of our narratives have to change. It doesn't just become about us. It doesn't just have to be, oh, I've done this and I've done that. So therefore, because of this, I'm going to treat my child a certain way. No, I want to be able to trust my child. So I'm going to raise her according. I'm going to raise him according. And when they grow up and become full-fledged adults themselves, my example is what is going to be, like put out in the world when they're getting jobs, when they're dating, when they're in professional settings, and all things that they do, all they have to cling on to and how they treat people and shit like that is the example that I gave them. So that's how I look at it.
Right. Also, to add on to what you just said, I feel like as a parent, wherever you are in life, you always want your child to surpass you. You should always want your child to become better than what you were.
Right.
Right. So, all right. It's funny because I'm gonna use this to transition to the next topic. So basically, I feel like even though he doesn't know anything about the patriarchal society, a lot of people would consider this, him being, uh, uh, how can I say this? Stuff that people don't like about the patriarchal society, even though he doesn't have any information about it or not really know much about it. A lot of people would think this would be part of it. Now, which leads to my next question, and this is part of the next topic. This patriarchal society we have in America, do you feel like it benefits us as black men?
Yes and no.
I mean,
Or black
does
people,
anything
or
in
black
America
people in
benefit black
general,
people?
or black people in general? This patriarchal society.
No, so all right. So to answer your question, this is how I'm gonna say it. Well, obviously, in this patriarchal society, there are certain things awarded to men, or that men have a certain privilege, and that kind of really doesn't benefit women, or that is that way because it oppresses women in a way, right? And as black men specifically, there are some instances where we do have a sort of privilege, like I would say, like for example, like narrative or culture. Black women have it worse because they suffer from racism and sexism, right? We don't necessarily suffer from sexism in that same way. So that's a awarded privilege then and there. And that is because of the overarching patriarchy. However, the patriarchy doesn't really benefit us, as it would like other men, especially white men. For example, black black men get incarcerated at more rates than their white counterparts doing the same crime, and white people have more people in this country. They're the majority of this country according to statistics. So that doesn't benefit us. We can't really we can't really play it like white people do. And that in itself, I don't think that's like something to, want to achieve. So that's not something that we should be striving for as black men. The only real thing that we should be striving for as black men in America is just to make sure our communities are good, that we're able to, work and provide for our people. That I feel like that's the number one thing that we should be able to do. Because if you really think about it, and this has been said before in a lot of things, and I'm going to take it a step further uh, because my parents are from Ghana, and my dad's side, their tribe is very matriarchal. My dad is Fanti, the Fanti tribe in Ghana. They're very matriarchal. So I've always had that kind of upbringing where you always put honor and respect towards your woman. So and what I've noticed in like the black community, most of us, I'm not even going to say most of us, a lot of us, we was raised by our mothers. You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at the crack epidemic and shit like that, they was locking black men up wholesale. So it was up to the women to hold it down and be mothers to a generation where like having a father was kind of like the rarity. Like if you had a black man in the house, they look at you like, wait a minute, you actually got a father? And we've seen that narrative being perpetuated like a lot. You know what I'm saying? You look at black movies, black music, and all that. Most of the motherfuckers was raised by single mothers. So in a way, the black community is very matriarchal. But because of that admixture of like a patriarchal society that teaches young boys that certain shit while they're coming up, they're going to harbor certain attitudes. That's why, like, when you hear rap music, the ones that sell the most are the ones that call women bitches and suck my dick and all that. Like, that's the shit that sells. You know what I'm saying? But music that uplift women and they show women in a positive light. Yeah, they may get some shine here and there, but it's not as prevalent as the ones that demonize women and shit like that. So that is also an added benefit to patriarchy when it comes to black men. We're you know like, of course there's black men slander and shit like that, but that's more so a defensive reaction to a lot of the trauma black women have had to deal with over the years in terms of how they are being perceived by media, by our own people. And that's a discussion we've always had. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's gonna depend on what type of culture that said person or that said group subscribes to at the very end of the day. But in terms of that, I don't think black men, there's not you cannot find three things, even the thing I just mentioned, you cannot find three things that benefit black men wholesale when it comes to this patriarchal society, because all that power is reserved to white men, because patriarchy is obviously um what's it called, it's like right next to white supremacy. Like they're both kind of interchangeable when you think about it, because the patriarchal society would like to, I think it would be more of a benefit to them if black men were in the equation at all, to be very honest with you. I think if we all disappeared, the patriarchy would be stronger than it was before, because we're not willing to let them do that to our sisters out here. We're not letting them. We're not willing to let them just walk over our black women like that. As fucked up as a lot of black men are, and as a lot of black men are, like, we won't be willing to stoop that low to sell out our black women to get some fucking trinkets. I don't think there's been a time where we ever really wanted to stoop that low, even at our lowest. So, in terms of patriarchy, I don't really think it applies to black men, but I can see that there are certain things and certain instances where we do kind of benefit, but it's not to the level of white men in regards to patriarchy and white supremacy at the same time.
Dion, you have anything to say?
Well, when you first posed your question at the beginning of this particular discussion, I asked the question: does anything in America really benefit Black people aside from even including this whole patriarchal system? Because as Father just said, we we've been put in situations where a lot of the things we do as a Black community, it revolves around our women. Because with Black people getting locked up at the rates that at the rates they come after us, with the whole drug epidemic and everything else, women have been the foundation of the Black community, which to this day it still baffles me how we've we've relied so much on our women, but women still get treated the way they do. But in ter- in terms of just a blunt answer to the whole patriarchal system and whether or not it benefits us, no, hell no. But on that same token, what I feel needs to happen is just you know there this comes to the whole subject of equality, if you ask me, because if again, I'm looking for the right words for this. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I know this is being recorded and people listen to this, but I feel like if women were looked at in the same just in the same respect as men were, then there'd be a lot less of the things we deal with today going on. You know, going back to what we first talked about, the situation with that college girl getting killed. You know, that plays largely into just the patriarchal mindset, and that you know women, I guess, aren't equal to us as men. So when basically this dude feels as if he had the right to be upset and do what he did, which is not the case. But I feel like instead of this whole, whether it's a patriarchal, matriarchal thing or whatever, it's just then there needs to be a form of equality, because what gets lost in the midst of all of this is the fact that we are human beings before anything else, regardless of gender, race, sexuality, whatever, whatever. So I feel like, never mind the whole patriarchal or matriarchal, whatever, whatever. Let let's start looking at each other as human beings, as people beforehand. You know, stop a lot of the mess that goes on in the world.
Now, of course, and I don't want to interrupt what you're saying, but I do agree with you. But the only thing that I would say is like all that shit you're saying, of course, that's going to be for like a perfect world. But all we can do is just make sure that the systems that are in place don't really, fuck with people the way that they're fucking with people. Like the only reason why patriarchy is even really a thing is because it impedes on other people's, rights and shit like that. That's why they talk about it so much. Like we do the same shit with racism. When we talk about racism, it's because racism is prejudice plus power. You know what I'm saying? That's why we talk. That's
Right.
why we go so hard about it. I feel like it's the same thing with patriarchy. It's prejudice and power, and at the behest of the woman. Where in the black community, it's kind of weird because we've never really like if you look at African history, we've always like put our women on a high on a high pedestal. Like even if you look at ancient Egypt, all the motherfuckers respected the fuck out of women. So having that respect for the women's power and shit like that, like that's just always been natural to us. We ain't never really had that issue until we got enslaved, and then our predicament was here. Well, we would get certain things if we sold each other out, and we kind of carried that as a culture, and it just makes it more complicated when you add patriarchy into it because it hasn't really helped out black men like it did the white man. You know what I'm saying? So it's like weird. It's like a weird thing to discuss because even if we really did benefit from patriarchy the way some black feminists say that we do, how do we express that really? You know what I'm saying? Like they make the argument that, oh, black men kill women, and I'm like, black men kill black men, black women kill black women. Like if you do crime or if you kill people, it's always going to be within the proximity of each other. That's why our death rates are the way they are. That's why white people's death rates are the way they are. Then they kill each other. You know what I'm saying? That's going to happen with every community. So like the way that we do it is because of our economic, because of our economic status here in America. We get
Right.
pushed to these ghettos, we get pushed to these hoods. There's no way to come out of it. So the only way you telling me I can get money over here is by selling drugs and making sure my territory is not being raided by another brother that's trying to make a dollar that's gonna affect me and how I raise my kids, or like how I'm trying to get my money to get the hell up out of here. And then that's the perfect way to get Negroes to kill each other. If you look at third world countries, that they do the same shit too. You go to any hood in a third world country, the death rates are skyrocketing because there ain't no money to be made out here. So in order for
Right.
me to eat, and in order for me to get shit popping, I might have to kill a few of my own people. And when you put that in context with like patriarchy and shit, it like having that discussion is always just, there's going to be a lot of misconceptions because yeah, there are some instances where okay, you can say that we do benefit from that, but it's not to the point where it's recognized as systematic and we can just do it wholesale. Because if we do, we either get locked up or and we never get seen again, or we get killed. So it kind of even really doesn't matter to bring patriarchy up in the black community.
Right. Not to mention the fact that, okay, you can't talk about black people and patriarchy when it it seems like extra efforts is put into keeping the black man out of his home, away from his family. You know?
Yeah.
So I actually have an unpopular opinion about this, and I'm pretty sure one of y'all might debate me on this because I don't mind being wrong about this, but I do, like I said, have an unpopular opinion about this. I feel like black women thrive in this patriarchy a little bit more than black men do. Now, the one thing, and I'm not a big fan of hers, but I do think she has a point about this, Cynthia G. She has a point. It's like black men doesn't really thrive in the patriarchy because we don't own a lot of things. There's a as anything like we've owned like really majorly, like we done sold it like BET. We done sold that to Viacom. Now Viacom is owned by a bunch of white people. Like the mom and pop stores. There's plenty of times where in neighborhoods they had mom and pop stores. That was owned by black men, but bought out by big business. And you know what they say, big bank take little bank to make a Walmart or whatever the fuck they was gonna build, a supermarket or whatever the fuck, or Amazon building, whatever the fuck you see that. You see that I seen it in jobs where like since growing up, there's a lot of jobs that black men used to have, like factory working jobs and any job that like works with your hands. They've been outsourced or not. Yeah, especially like factory jobs. You've been outsourced to other countries, so that's taken a lot of black men out of jobs, especially like consistent jobs where you can at least feed your family out of it. And anybody knows that black with because of black men's testosterone, we're more likely to want to build stuff, want to work with our hands and all the other stuff. That's where most of our creative juices really start flowing in, like building things or like inventing things and all the other stuff. With black women, and the reason why I say I think black women thrives from this because, like I said, when you look at the unemployment rate from black men and black women, until now, the last time I checked, until now, it was always like black women was 2%. It was like a 4 point something when it came to unemployment rate to like 6 point something where it came to men. Like there was more unemployed black men than it was black women. Black women was getting jobs. Black women are now there are more scholarships for women in general, especially for black women than there are for black men. Uh, um, they're getting more jobs, especially a lot of secretarial jobs where like some men even struggle to get like janitor jobs because there's not that many. But there's a whole lot of secretarial jobs. No. Now, don't get me wrong, black women still like it's a patriarchy, so they're not going to thrive on as much as they can. But I feel like, in my opinion, they've always gone some more. Like especially when it comes to getting an education, getting bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. A lot of men, some school ain't for everybody. Anybody, we've all been to school. We know that school ain't for everybody, and like trades, when trades used to be a big thing in high school, especially like carpentry and welding and plumbing, they took that out of high school. Now you got people just sitting there and trying to learn stuff. And I know me. This is just me speaking personally. I didn't mind school, but I would tell you like this: if I wasn't interested in a topic, I was not interested. Like no amount of teaching could make me interested. You have to make like stuff really interesting for me. So now, with that saying, I'm not saying that black women are better than us when it comes to this patriarchy, because like they still have to go through their bullshit, like not wearing their natural hair, or they have to code switch because you can't be your natural self in the workplace. You gotta speak the white man. I don't want to say the white, yeah, speak the white man's language. Sometimes you gotta look less intimidating, and both black people go through it. So this is why I tell like black women, when it comes to like this patriarchy, black men don't benefit this at all because one, we don't own anything, and everything that we make is either destroyed or taken over by white America. And like history done proved that the black woman. It's funny you say like most African countries are matriarchy. I feel like a lot of black communities are matriarchal as well, especially when the Black Panthers, when they was doing their things, and they can tell you like when they was trying to show people like they can take care of a community, they started WIC for women and children. And most people don't know that WIC came from the Black Panthers. There's a lot of good ideas that like black men has made, for the safety of black women. I feel like we do a lot as black men. We do a lot of sacrifices for black women so they can do what they need to do. As far and um, when it comes to like jobs and women, a lot of black, especially in this day and age, a lot of black women are more financially stable than black men. And in this, especially in this day and age, a lot of black women, like all the black women I know, they're getting their bachelor's degrees, they're getting their masters, they're trying to they're starting their own businesses and all that other stuff. And there are loans for them that they can do that. Like when you want to go to school, there are specific scholarships for women that a lot of men do not get. That you can like work two jobs and still go to school. And I see it a lot for women, but I really don't see it from men a lot. And I've always wondered that. But and then you got, welfare. I can understand what welfare is for, but in order for you to have welfare, the black man does not need to be, can't be in the house. So you can't be relying on the government and relying on black men. So you got to like kick the black man out for you to get welfare and something like that. That's and people if people wonder that's why black men are kind of against welfare. That's why the whole Section 8 project, and also like the Section 8 projects. Men are killing men. That's why they have gangs and all that other stuff. And a lot of men are taking out the jobs, the prison systems, the crack areas, and all that other stuff. It took a lot of black men out. So women, especially black women, they had to be reliant on themselves. So that's why like our women, when it comes to black women specifically, they're more independent than I would say any other race of women. And that's why like them being submissive is kind of like really few in between because they've always had to do for themselves because of the way this patriarchal society done put on us and the way it's treated black men. So, in my opinion, I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I'm not blaming black women, but I've always said that I feel like in this era and going on, I feel like black women will succeed more into this patriarchal society than black men would. What y'all think? Am I right or wrong about that?
Okay, so I've heard what you said, and you make a lot of really good points on your assertion. And I also want to piggyback off that and say that I would say that's the reason why a lot of white women feminists always like get black women to join their fight and shit. And they try to make it seem like, oh no, it's not just our issue, it's y'all issues too. When like there's always been a history of like when black men are doing shit, black women are right there putting their work along with the black men. So it's like when did we get to a point where black women needed feminism to get shit done to fix anything that supposedly the black man is complicit of? Even
I've been saying this for years.
yeah,
Not to cut you off. I've been saying this for years. Black women never needed feminism, and I know a lot of women like debate me at this, and they're black feminists. But I was like, there's no point. Like, when have men has ever told black women what to do? And even black women said that. When has black men ever told black women what to do? Especially when like you're the ones doing it. Like a lot of people say like, oh, when black women, make more, men are intimidated. It's like we're not intimidated. Sometimes, like you're a neurosurgeon. I might work at Foot Locker. I'm not gonna tell you not to work. And anybody who does that is probably less of a man anyway. Like my ego is not gonna, especially with trying to raise a family. My ego is not gonna stop you from working. Go ahead, Father.
yeah, you just said it right there. I mean, like we not trying to take anything away from black women. Like even like you can like even if men like because yeah there is misogyny, like black men do participate in misogyny and shit like that, but it would never, I feel like it would never get to a point where we as a collective of black men want to take anything away from black women, or we collectively as black men say, oh no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you need to stay home and cook. I don't think any black man on a collective level did that to the women. We like because you like if you look at our history, our women was always like right beside us when we was going to war. Like, bro, you can find so many examples of black women just putting in work along with black men that's putting in work and then to make a stable society. But as soon as we got out of slavery and shit like that, and then they started purposefully putting us in ghettos and purposely making sure we didn't have access to wealth and purposely making sure that certain narratives were perpetuated. Like, think about this for a second. Like, they had our babies with that doll test. They had our babies saying the white doll is more beautiful than the black doll. So they're not gonna give a fuck about our relationships with our women. So they perpetuate these little narratives to have us divided against each other, and it works. And it works because a lot of people, a lot of black people who don't have that warrior spirit or a lot of black people who's been really broken down, they subscribe to them things. And then you got certain black men that's in Men Go Their Own Way, which is like a whole bunch of white incels that that are undesirables and can't even spit games for women anyway. You got black men in those. You got black women that literally hate black men and start little communities and start YouTube channels about how black man ain't shit and black man ain't this and black man ain't that. Go get you a zaddy. You know what I'm saying? I've experienced this firsthand. I've experienced this firsthand, especially in a lot of African communities. In Nigeria, there was a movie called White Hunters where it was just a whole bunch of Nigerian women that purposefully went to go look for white husbands, or husbands who weren't Nigerian or black, because they wanted money and they wanted status, and they equated that to men that's not of their race or of their tribe and shit. So this is an issue that's like way more than patriarchy and shit. This is a black issue. We have people in our communities that literally look at the white ice that's colder because of just our conditioning. And while it is getting better, you can still see that because of certain narratives that are being pushed, it's helping divide us even further, even though like we're still together and everything. Like black men are still marrying black women and shit like that. But at the same time, when you are forced to look at a certain thing, that's probably all you're going to push out. So I really understand when you was talking about that, and even when you was talking about how black women are put in positions even seemingly more than black men. That's also a very good point, because I'm pretty sure if you read statistics right now, we're probably the only community where the women out earn the men. And that's not because, and of course, black women are amazing, and we would never take away their due diligence and shit like that. They've always been down, but that has been designed because they want to lock us up, they want to kill us, and they want to do all that shit. And when a black man is trying to get something popping, or when a black man has done something popping, there's always some way to sabotage him. Like, let me ask you a question. Name could you name any black man that got away clean, making a lot of money, like clean, like there was
No,
no scandals or nothing?
not to the top of my head. No,
Yeah, exactly.
it
And
was it was going to be Bill Cosby. It was going to be Bill Cosby until that scandal, but no.
yeah, exactly. So it's like when we try to recollect of our heroes, like Malcolm X got killed by his own people, effectively. Martin Luther King got assassinated. Like all of our good heroes and shit like that. Like when we read about their greatest hits, we don't find out that a coon done got to them. They got assassinated. They got their wealth taken away. There's some bullshit ass charge, and then they got all their shit taken away. Whenever we always trying to do something to elevate our people, specifically as black men, there's always someone out to get us, or they get us in some way, one way or another. But when it comes to black women, you could probably name black women that got away clean. As a matter of fact, you can probably say you could probably make the argument that Oprah Winfrey got away clean. She's a billionaire. That's a black woman. And like, of course, she had her struggles, but you cannot point to one thing where it was a scandal and all her wealth got taken away. So that shit's by design. So you do bring up a very, very good point when you say that. But in terms of like misogyny within the black community and shit, that is something that we do need to address. But it's like I said, it's not to the point where we're actively taking shit away from black women just to build ourselves up. Because we can find plenty examples of the white man that does that. The white patriarchy that does that. They do that all the time. The fucking abortion shit that was going on out in Alabama and shit, that's white men all day. Even if you even looked at the little hearings that they had, if you search that shit on YouTube, you're not really gonna find any black men on there. Even when they had the hearing on TV about how abortion should go, all the black men that was in the Congress shit that was in their positions of power, they all voted against it. So it's like, okay, this is something that's organized. It's not something that's just happening because, oh, we're black men and we don't want to see women succeed.
Yeah, and that's one thing I do. Even in my unpopular opinion, I want to say this. I don't. I want black women to succeed because I do feel like, in a way, they can get us out this hole. But at the same time, men, and I'm not going to say put up our bootstraps because we ain't got no boots. But I will say, like, if we, that's why, like, most men, they try to make it like rapping or playing basketball because a lot of that, even though that's going into like the white man's territory, you see a lot of, I think that's why, hold on. I think that's why we rely on entertainment a lot because entertainment is probably like the quickest way for a black man to get up out their struggle, other than selling drugs. Especially if a lot of them doesn't really go to school, like I said they do, or just try to get a regular job. Like most people know, especially in DC, like the end you basically got to work two jobs and stay with a roommate just to make sure you get the rent paid. Like you, especially like I've read somewhere in the newspaper you got to make at least $26 an hour to like keep your head above water in DC. Like these are high income, like basically DC, New York, I believe Chicago, especially LA is a you have to have a lot of income, and there's not a lot of jobs that pay that much, especially like in DC. Minimum wage is like $11 an hour, and yet apartment buildings are like 1,500 and up. So I'm like, how did like economically, how does that help black men? Is and then you tell us most of them, and you tell most of them to go to school. It's like a lot of men, just like I said, like some people just not school people. A lot of people aren't school people. Even though we try, like I'm not gonna lie, when I went to AI, I'm not a school person, but I did try. But then again, mine was in entertainment. So, but I know like sometimes where there was class where I had to sit there and learn. Sometimes it's like if the situation wasn't interesting, I get bored easily.
Right.
So, but with that being said, I do see men stepping up. And like I said, I've been saying this all year. Black entrepreneurship has been rising in this era. I don't, and I said it's probably because the way people think that Trump is going to put us back in slavery times, and I feel like that's why black entrepreneurship has been rising. But that could be another topic to talk about. But I do want to see black women like rise, and I want to see black women do great things. You know, I don't want to take nothing from black women. All right. Um. So, with that, anybody got any final thoughts about this topic?
Nah, I think we get. I think we went in on this topic.
Okay. With that said, I'm gonna go ahead and do our final thoughts, and I'm going to start with Dion. Dion, you got any final thoughts?
Just when it comes to everything we just spoke about, again, more effort needs to be put into just the support of the women around us, and everything we just spoke about lean toward that. You know, from the whole thing about the whole issue about Ti to what we just spoke about, the patriarchal system. More needs to be put towards the support of our women, especially since we've we've pretty much been relying on the women in black communities for decades. It's time to do more in terms of helping and protecting them.
That's it. Fada.
We killed yo. I'm telling you, I'm about to make this proclamation right now on this podcast. I am here to kill certain narratives. I'm going to be hell on certain people that perpetuate certain shit. And like I've had people delete comments today because they wanted to try me on what the fuck I had to say. So I'm just letting y'all know out there for anyone who wants to hear it and who has certain narratives about men being trash or black women being this and black women being that or whatever. I'm going to kill your narrative. I'm letting you know right the fuck now. That's not what the fuck we're gonna bring into 2020. You come in my face with some black men are trash or men are trash or whatever. I'm going to make it my personal mission to kill your motherfucking narrative because I'm going to live in a world where when issues arrive, we get to solutions. We're not bickering and arguing like little sensitive bitches y'all been doing for the last part of this decade, and I'm fucking tired of it. We ain't got time for no bitch ass energy in 2020, and that's
Right.
what I'm vowing myself to do right now. So certain narratives that come out that talking about we're gonna blame this one group for all of this shit that's happening, we stopping that shit today. We are going to laser focus on what the problem actually is, and then when you laser focus on something, then you can find the proper solutions to stop it. So no, men aren't trash. Instead, rapists are trash. Domestic
Right.
abusers are trash. All of that shit that you saying that because you're perpetuating a narrative that if it's a rapist, it has to be a man. Oh shit, if it's a domestic abuser, happens to it has to be a man just by virtue of of everything. And that's not me trying to denounce the statistics because yes, I'm very aware that the majority of statistics say men lead in this and men lead in that. Yes, of course. We're not trying to denounce that. Those are facts. What we're saying is make a distinction. Do not make a generalization, make a distinction. When I'm going after racism, I'm not going after white people because white people are just regular white folks. I'm going after white supremacists. I'm going after white nationalists. I'm going after coons, and I'm going after people of color that have personal vendettas against black folks. That's who I'm talking about when I'm talking about racism. I make distinctions and I call people out specifically. I'm not going to go over there and say, well, all Mexicans are racist because two Mexican people called me a nigger. I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is I'm saying these two motherfucking individuals from this specific race that have a specific narrative being pushed by specific people, I'm going to laser focus my attention to them and kill their motherfucking narrative. And as soon as people start doing that, nothing is going to get solved if you keep generalizing like little bitches. So stop generalizing and start having distinctions. Let's start having real ass conversations where we don't get in our motherfucking feelings. Because I guarantee you, when women get killed, we in our feelings just as much as y'all are in your feelings. When black men and women getting killed, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that's gonna be in their feelings too. So I want to make sure that, hey, not on some kumbaya, we're all in this together shit, but I just want to make a distinction that there are individuals that want to see us succeed. And because those individuals are genuine, I'm going to make sure that the narrative that is similar to our narrative gets pushed. That's all I want. So let's stop making generalizations and let's start making distinctions. The sooner we do that, the more solutions we can have. Because I'm tired of the whole fucking argument shit. We've been arguing for the latter year of a decade. I'm tired. Let's fix this shit. Because I'm not
And to
trying
add,
I'm not trying to have no women getting killed out here no more.
right. And to add on to that real quick, you know, if you don't want to be to those who don't want to be looked at and lumped in with certain, certain types of people, you know what I'm saying? Make it a point to change something. For example, all this negative shit that people say about black men, the way I'm looking at it is this: I'm not gonna argue with you. I want to show you I'm not like these other motherfuckers. You feel me?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say nothing to you. my actions are going to be the thing that show you, okay, I'm here to help you. I'm here to defend you. I'm talking to my black women here. You know, we're not on that. Not all of us are on that bullshit. The more of us that actually step up and show, hey, we're here to lend a hand, we're here to protect y'all, support y'all, whatever. Then a whole lot of stuff is just a whole lot of stuff is going to improve. A whole lot of stuff is going to probably stop altogether.
Okay. I think the moral of the story is black people, we in this together. Black men, black women, we in this together. We at the I do feel like white supremacy do try to separate us, and they try to separate us through our black women. And I feel like that's what been black men has been saying since the 70s. They've been trying to infiltrate us. They've been trying to split us up. They've been trying to make us argue with amongst each other instead of directing our attention to the problem. We direct our attention to ourselves. So for one, we need to stop doing that. I've always said this. No matter who it is, we go to the problem. We need to be about solutions instead of just complaining about the problems. We need to be about solutions. Because to me, I'm tired of us always talking about the problems. So we need to be about solutions. I understand that there's going to be times, there's going to be some rough times, there's going to be times white supremacy might stop us, but we keep our heads strong. And if I'm saying this, we keep our heads strong and we have our priorities straight. We can
Sorry.
we can counteract whatever the fuck white supremacy throws at us. There's no reason that black people could re-gentrify our own communities without having the white man come in and try to take over stuff. There's especially black cities like Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago, and all the other people. Like we
New
can
York.
re-gentrify our own city. Like I don't. I feel like we don't really need to. We should do it before the white man do it. Because history done shown that when we do stuff, they copy it. Whether it's music, whether it's whatever we invent, whether it's anything. It seems like when black people we do stuff, they copy it and they make money off of it. We need to make money off our own shit. We need to we're not and white people we're not saying like segregate ourselves from white people or any
Hey,
other race.
hey, Ray. Can
We're
that
basically trying
be
to
can
say
that be a thing we talk about next time? Culture vultures. Can that
yeah.
be a thing we talk about next time?
We can talk about culture vultures next time. Because I do, because I was going to talk about Post Malone winning the best rap album, and that's what I call my favorite culture vulture. And I've always said, black people, y'all made him in there. Y'all can't complain that he won the award for best rap album. Y'all like he got his money off of black people, in my opinion. But anyway, we in this together. Let's 2020, and I've been saying this all the time. Let's work with each other. Let's build our communities up. Let's and I see it already happening. Let's do this because it seems like every time our backs on the wall, we fight back and we come back stronger. So that's why I've always compared black people to Saiyans. But and that's all I got to say about that. I would like to thank our panel for coming on here and talk about this on our podcast. I'd like to thank y'all for listening. Here is Talk Our Shit again. Till then, this is You Know What? Let me just say podcast and I'm signing out. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.